Okay, well, let's jump in. We sang with the master last week before we closed. Dive deep, oh mind. Oh, let me do my pinning. And just because these songs are always so great, I'm going to let the master sing it for us again here. Dive deep, oh mind. Dive deep in the ocean of God's beauty. If you descend to the uttermost depths, there you will find the gem of love. Go seek, O mind, go seek Vrindavan in your heart, where with his loving devotees Sri Krishna sports eternally. Light up, O mind, light up true wisdom's shining lamp, and let it burn with a steady flame unceasingly within your heart. Who is it that steers your boat across the solid earth? It is your Guru, says Kabir. Meditate on his holy feet. Sri Ramakrishna continued, it is also true that after the vision of God, the devotee desires to witness his Leela. After the destruction of Ravana at Rama's hands, Nikasha, Ravana's mother, began to run away for fear for her life. Lakshmana said to Rama, revered brother, please explain this strange thing to me. This Nikasha is an old woman who has suffered a great deal from the loss of her many sons, and yet she is so afraid of losing her own life that she is taking to her heels. Rama bade her come near and gave her assurance of safety, and asked her why she was running away. Nikasha answered, O Rama, I am able to witness all this Leela of yours because I am still alive. I want to live longer so that I may see the many more things you will do on this earth. Everyone laughs. I don't know why they laugh. I mean, I would understand that from my perspective, good or bad. You know, to see all of this beauty, it is an amazing thing if you see it properly. If you can see it without desire for it, if you can let it pass without wanting to grab onto it, and you recognize it as the handiwork of your beloved. It's like putting your son's or daughter's work on your refrigerator, you know. It's like, to you it's beautiful because it's your beloved, and even though it's already beautiful because it's of your beloved, you see through it to the divine. It's even more beautiful, even more wonderful. And so this woman, you know, running to save her life because she liked to see the play of her beloved, of the divine. Quite a beautiful thing here. I like to see you. How can I live unless I see pure soul devotees? I feel as if they had been my friends in former incarnations. A Brahmo devotee. Sir, do you believe in reincarnation of the soul? A Brahmo devotee. Oh, master. Well, yes, they say there is something like that. How can we understand the ways of God through our small intellects? Let me close my window here real quick. You know, this is one of the things I really enjoy about the master is, reincarnate. He doesn't say, oh, yes, absolutely, that's the way it is. What does he say there? He said, yes, they say there is something like that, you know, which means that it's not a black and white situation. It's there's lots of wiggle room in there. And I really liked that, you know, because if you read these near death experiences, these people who actually die on the operating table or and come back or whatnot, many of them have similar stories, but many of them have their very own stories. And I kept thinking, I've always thought to myself, I was like, you know, I doubt the same thing happens to all of us when we die. I bet it's as karmic as anything else, you know, that somehow, according to our own disposition, our own understandings, our own trusts and beliefs, that different things could happen, you know, that God is infinite. It's not like a computer process that, okay, you did this, and this, you're going there, you're going there. I think it's very much this beautiful arrangement of flowers, as if, you know, that God has put all of these truths together. It's like karma. You know, Thakur also doesn't make hardcore statements about karma. He also gives it lots of leeway, because these things, you know, nothing has any substance without the divine. There are no absolutes outside of God. And so this entire world is a constantly changing and wondrous piece of art, an expression of that divinity. And rules are only scaffolding for realizing truth or for knowing the divine. They don't in and of themselves have any fast meaning, you know, that they aren't stationary. What is good for one man is not good for the other woman. You know, what is right for this person isn't right for that person. And the same behavior in two different people can be good in one and bad in the other. And this intimacy that God lives in with everything and everyone, you know, that everything is always best. That's one way, one thing you can garnish from it. But it's that whole story of Thakur finding the flower in the garden that was the bush that had a red rose and a white rose on it at the same time, the day after somebody said, you know, God has rules. He has rules that he himself won't invalidate or won't violate. And Thakur asked him for an example. He says, well, for instance, a red rose bush gives off red roses, and a white one gives off white roses. Never do you see a bush with one red rose and one white rose. And literally the very next day, Thakur is out in the garden plucking flowers, and their mother has created a special rose bush, one of a kind, that produces one red rose and one white rose on there. And Thakur got all excited and said, see, the master, the beloved is beyond all of these things, beyond all of these things. Freedom is the watchword in Vedanta.
Swami,
Yes.
could you please remind me of the date? I'm just not able to find this anymore.
Oh, yes. It is. Well, it's page 153 in the big book. And the chapter is the master with the Brahmo devotees, and the date, gosh, isn't going to help. October 28, 1882, but we're way into it. Oh, it's just before Wednesday, November 15th.
Okay, thank you, Swami.
Sure. Very good. Good. I thought I was about to get in trouble for what I just said. So, so the master about reincarnation. Yes, they say there's something like that. How can we understand the ways of God through our small intellects? And his real lesson there is like, stop even imagining that you can possibly know all of these things. You know, this is what rescues us from fundamentalism, you know, is understanding that we don't have to know everything. And those things that we really can't know, we shouldn't try to know. We should definitely not arrive at a place where we think we know. And so it's that humility, that intellectual humility and understanding about things that will make us kinder and make our edges a little rounder and make our minds much larger. Many people have spoken about reincarnation, therefore I can't disbelieve it. As Bhishma lay dying on his bed of arrows, the Pandava brothers and Krishna stood around him. They saw tears flowing from the eyes of the great hero. Arjuna said to Krishna, friend, how surprising it is. Even such a man as our grandsire Bhishma, truthful, self-restrained, supremely wise, and one of the 8 Vasus, weeps through Maya at the hour of death. Sri Krishna asked Bhishma about it. Bhishma replied, O Krishna, you know very well that this is not the cause of my grief. I am thinking that there is no end to the Pandava sufferings, though God himself is their charioteer. A thought like this makes me feel that I have understood nothing of the ways of God, and so I weep. Wow, I can't even fathom that. To weep because you realize that you know nothing of God, and what a pain that would be for someone who loved him so much. Wow. It was about 8:30 when the evening worship began in the prayer hall. Soon the moon rose in the autumn sky and flooded the trees and creepers of the garden with its light. After prayer, the devotees began to sing. Sri Ramakrishna was dancing, intoxicated with the love of God. The Brahmo devotees danced around him to the accompaniment of the drums and the cymbals. All appeared to be in such a very joyous mood. The place echoed and re-echoed with God's holy name. When the music had stopped, Sri Ramakrishna prostrated himself on the ground, and making salutations to the Divine Mother again and again, he said, Bhagavata Bhakta Bhagavan, my salutations at the feet of the Gyanis, my salutations at the feet of the Bhaktas. I salute the Bhaktas who believe in God with form, and I salute the Bhaktas who believe in God without form. I salute the knowers of Brahman of olden times, and my salutations at the feet of the modern knowers of Brahman, of the Brahmo Samaj. Then the master and the devotees enjoyed a supper of delicious dishes, which Beni Madhav, their host, had provided. That is a true heart of love right there. He can absorb all of that difference, all of the different ideas and different opinions and different approaches to the divine. And it's not the particulars he cares about or looks at. It's the heart of these people that he looks at. And he gets inspired by understanding what all of them are seeking, what all of them are trying to find, the divine. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful lesson for how we are to grow to see others and how we treat difference and how we treat otherness. We don't gossip about it. We don't point at it and judge it. We don't make fun of it. We don't belittle it. We don't even disagree with it. We honor them for trying. We honor them for being inspired to look and to learn. Just giving that credit to every person. just a very, very, very kind spirit that Thakur is showing here. Sri Ramakrishna, accompanied by Rakal and several other devotees, came to Calcutta in a carriage and called for M at the school where he was teaching. Then they all set out for the Maydan. Sri Ramakrishna wanted to see the Wilson Circus. As the carriage rolled along the crowded Chitpur road, his joy was very great. Like a little child, he leaned first out of one side of the carriage and then ran over and out of the other, talking to himself as if addressing the passers-by. To M, he said, I find the attention of the people fixed on earthly things. They're all rushing about for the sake of their stomachs. No one is thinking about God. They arrived at the circus. Tickets for the cheapest seats were purchased. The devotees took the master into a high gallery, and they all sat on a bench. He said joyfully, Ha! This is a good place. I can see the show well from here. There were exhibitions of various feats. A horse raced around the circular track over which large iron rings hung at intervals. The circus rider, an Englishwoman, stood on one foot on the horse's back, and as the horse passed under the rings, she jumped through them, always alighting on one foot on the horse's back. The horse raced around the entire circle, and the woman never missed the horse or lost her balance. When the circus was over, the master and the devotees stood outside in the field near the carriage. Since it was a cold night, he covered his body with the green shawl. Mother's putting it through my head again and again. They bought him the cheapest seats in the house. Literally bought him the cheapest house. He was on a wooden bench and he was way up in the gallery. I mean, way up there. And just like a little kid, there's no thought about those things. There's no measurement against ego or respect or just not that kind of thinking. He's just immediately thrilled. These are the best seats. I can see everything from here. Marvelous. It's a lesson. This is the mind of a beautiful ideal. This is a mind that we're trying to garner for ourselves, where we walk into any condition and we see the best. We notice the highest. We recognize the beautiful. Always. that we just get rid of that negativity, that ego mind where you walk in, look, they bought me the cheapest ticket. Oh my God, I have to sit on a bench this whole hour. It's going to kill me. Oh, look, I can hardly see anybody from up here. This is so high. The nosebleed section, you know, all those things that he could have said, and so many people do. But see how he teaches us just in the simple way that he is, in the joyful way he rides that carriage, running from one side to the other. What kind of grown man does that? This is what it is to have the pure heart and mind of a child, and to see things clearly. He didn't live in a fantasy world of projection. He saw clearly what was happening and what was around him. When the circus was over, the master and the devotees stood outside in the field near the carriage. Since it was a cold night, he covered his body with a green shawl. Sri Ramakrishna said to M, "Did you see how that Englishwoman stood on one foot on her horse while it ran like lightning? How difficult a feat that must be! She must have practiced a long time. The slightest carelessness, and she would break her arms or legs. She might even be killed. One faces the same difficulty leading the life of a householder. A few succeed in it through the grace of God and as a result of their spiritual practice. But most people fail. Entering the world, they become more and more involved in it. They drown in worldliness and suffer the agonies of death. A few only, like Janaka, have succeeded through the power of their austerity in leading a spiritual life as a householder. Therefore, spiritual practice is extremely necessary. Otherwise, one cannot rightly live in the world. So he's saying your spiritual practice for anybody, certainly for anybody, is extremely important. Why? For that single-mindedness. And what do we mean by single-mindedness? That means by keeping your attention on the stillness, on the presence of the divine, the absolute unchanging within. To be able to keep the mind in that space and to not be pulled out into the changing. If that woman on that horse had for a moment looked out to count the number of people that were there to see her that night, or if her thought had gone to, was her costume perfect, or if her mind had wandered at all into the left or the right on that horse, she was in grave danger. But she didn't. She was well practiced and well disciplined. And Thakur saw in her, that necessity, that ability to see single-mindedly, to keep the mind where it needs to be, and yet perform your duty, perform your karma, perform your life, tell your story. And so it's the secret to the way to walk down the street. That when you walk down the street, you're balanced, right? You're not being pulled from this window to that window, or from this body to that body, or from that purse to this car, whatever. You're not pulled all over the place. You walk, and you walk with that single-mindedness. You've seen Swamis walk that way. I've seen Swami Prabhupada walk that way, just as if he was indeed the post to which the world was hitched. So we need to have that kind of discipline, that kind of single-focusedness, that single-minded focus. just remain in bhav, remain in that stillness of the soul, and watch the change, and notice the change, and learn from the change, and call the change your beloved, and look through it at the divine. But don't be distracted by it. Don't be fooled by it. Don't lose your purpose because of it. Don't lose your discipline because of it. Stay deeply entrenched in the silence within, in the I am, in your isness, the image of your beloved, and commune there with God by watching all that he, she, that has done, is doing, that momentary manifestation of the expression of the divine. Therefore, spiritual practice is extremely necessary. Otherwise, one cannot rightly live in the world. The master got into the carriage and with the devotees went to Balaram Bose's house. He was taken with his companions to the second floor. It was evening and the lamps were lighted. The master described the feats he had seen at the circus. Gradually other devotees gathered and soon he was engaged in spiritual talk with them. The conversation turned to the caste system. Sri Ramakrishna said, "The caste system can be removed by one means only, and that is the love of God. Lovers of God do not belong to any caste. The mind, body, and soul of a man become purified through divine love. Chaitanya and Nityananda scattered the name of Hari to everyone, including the pariah, and embraced them all. A Brahmin without this love is no longer a Brahmin, and a pariah with the love of God is no longer a pariah. Through bhakti, an untouchable becomes pure and elevated." You know, he's alluding to this ability to know ourself. You know, that by this love of God, you know, that is knowing the divine and knowing that oneness. Love and oneness are synonyms. To see that oneness of ourself and the beloved, and to find that image within, because when we look at other people, what we see is what we think we are. We project what we know of ourselves on everyone else, because we have no way of knowing the mind of anyone else but ourselves. We have no way of knowing their internal world at all. Everything that we know and fall in love with in another person is a projected imagination from ourself onto them. And so if you know who you are, if you've done the work, you know, of your practice, and you've come to know the divine and the presence and intimacy of the divine, and that's what you know of yourself, then you will not be able to look at another person without making the same assumption about them, without knowing that your beloved is within them, that the divine spark is the spark that moves and animates them, and that love which you have for your highest ideal will be the love that you're able to have for a complete stranger, for someone completely different and other from you. It's by knowing that essential that we transcend all of the difference. And through that transcendence, we find that unity. You know, we find that space where we are all that Satchitananda. And through that, we become loving people. We become a blessing to the world, to everyone around us. And this is what Thakur is saying. You know, that these things that we judge and measure others by are things that we judge and measure ourselves by. And so the fundamental question in your practice is indeed, who are you? Who are you? And what are you? Find that out, and you will love everyone without a cause. Your grace will be the grace of God, actually, if you were able to manage that. Seeing the beloved everywhere. Speaking of householders entangled in worldliness, the master said, "They're like the silkworm. They can come out of the cocoon of their worldly life if they wish, but they can't bear to, for they themselves have built the cocoon with great love and care, so they die there. Or they are like a fish in a trap. They can come out of it by the way that they entered, but they sport inside the trap with other fish and hear the sweet sound of the murmuring water and forget everything else. They don't even make an effort to free themselves from the trap. The lisping of children is the murmur of the water, and the other fish are relatives and friends. Only one or two make good their escape by running away. They are the liberated souls." You know, the first thing that sticks out when you read this is that it's a matter of choice. In both cases, you know, he says that it's a matter of choice. He says they can come out of the cocoon of their worldly life if they wish, but they can't bear to. Why? Because we've invested so much in our house. We've invested so much in our children and our work and our idea of ourself and our clothing and all the artwork that we've hung and, you know, all the agonizing decisions about how to decorate and what color carpet to get. We've built all of these things and we just can't bear to let them go. despite the fact that they're going to be taken from our dead hands anyway. They are already gone. They'll be left for the next generation to clean up, throw them into the dumpster. So this choice, remember that when you complain about your lack of spiritual life, or you complain about your lack of spiritual experience, when you complain about the quality of your practice, know that Thakur is saying to you, look, it's a matter of your choice. If you invest love into your practice, it will shine like the stars. If you invest in your spiritual life, if you invest love in that, you'll know the truth. You'll know God. So it's up to you to make your choice. What is it that you want? What is it that will endure? What is it that you won't have to renew continually? What isn't that doesn't make you hungry for more, that satisfies you and fills you? Life is about choices. Start looking carefully. That's the first step. Make your choices consciously. Don't just do them without thinking about them. Make everything that you do a conscious prayer for your highest ideal, for that ideal of the beloved, of the divine, about everything that you do. That's how you make the choice. That's how you find freedom. We create our own karma. Each moment creates our samskara. If you've got bad samskaras that have made you worldly, this moment is your chance to change that. This moment is within your power to mold something completely new for tomorrow. So do that, and do it consciously, and invest it deeply with love, with attention, with carefulness. And your life will turn golden. Your vision of God will be real. You'll know these things firsthand. The master then sang, when such delusion veils the world through Mahamaya's spell, that Brahma is bereft of sense and Vishnu loses consciousness, what hope is left for men? The narrow channel first is made, and there the trap is set. But open though the passage lies, the fish, once safely through the gate, do not come out again. The silkworm patiently prepares its closely spun cocoon. Yet even though a way leads forth, encased within its own cocoon, the worm remains to die. The master continued, man may be likened to grain. He has fallen between the millstones and is about to be crushed. Only the few grains that stay near the peg escape. Therefore men should take refuge at the peg, that is to say, in God. Call on him, sing his name, then you will be free. Otherwise, you will be crushed by the king of death. Yeah, there's your secret right there. Take refuge. Run to Thakur. When you realize your meditation is bad, that your skills are wanting, take refuge. Turn to Thakur. Ask for help. Reach to him. Stay close to the peg. Constantly pull yourself close to the peg. Don't get distracted into the world for a day or two at a time. Practice until it's not more than 30 or 40 seconds at a time before you realize and feel the pang of separation, until you've lost the sense of bliss within. That's the tragedy, is that many of us don't live in that sense of bliss at all. It's been years since we've had that sense of bliss, and we think that that's normal. And we go on with our normal life, distracted and unconcerned about something we don't even realize that we've lost. But do your practice with love, with earnestness, and touch that bliss, just the slightest tinge of it again. Be reminded of what it was supposed to be human, to be the walking image, the walking expression of the divine absolute. Remember what that was supposed to be. Feel that. And don't let it go away. Don't let it disappear. Nurture it, love it, invest your life with love in everything that you do, taking refuge in the divine at the center of your very self, your very own being, and become reacquainted with the bliss of life, with the joy of living, the way that it should have been, so that you too can weep at a sunset or laugh at a flower, or all these sentimental things that we do that have great meaning when they're done with God behind them. You know, Thakur is really opening us up for this tonight, really saying, the master again sang, Mother, Mother, my boat is sinking here in the ocean of this world. Fiercely the hurricane of delusion rages on every side. Clumsy is my helmsman, the mind. Stubborn my 6 oarsmen, the passions. Into a pitiless wind I sailed my boat, and now it's sinking. Split is the rudder of devotion, tattered the sail of faith. Into my boat the waters are pouring. Tell me, what shall I do? For with my failing eyes, alas, nothing but darkness do I see. Here in the waves I will swim. O Mother, I cling to the raft of your name. Yeah, and the solution. Cling to the raft of Mother's name. You know, when you're walking down that busy street and you feel the pull, and you feel the foot leave that secure center of the divine, immediately start the mantra. Immediately cling to Mother's name, because your situation is being described right here. We don't see it that way. Why? Because it's become normal to us. We're so accustomed to not thinking of God or not remembering the name. So accustomed to being caught up in the world of change, always, frenetically engaged in it. Cling to Mother's name. That's your salvation. That's your hope of not getting trapped, not having to suffer continuously for the same things over and over and over and over again. Mr. Vishwas had been sitting in the room a long time. He now left. He had once been wealthy, but had squandered everything in an immoral life. Finally, he had become indifferent to his wife and children. Referring to Mr. Vishwas, the master said, "He is an unfortunate wretch. A householder has his duties to discharge, his debt to pay, his debt to the gods, his debt to his ancestors, his debt to the rishis, and his debt to wife and children. If a wife is chaste, then her husband should support her. He should also bring up their children until they are of age. Only a monk must not save. The bird and the monk do not provide for the morrow. But even a bird provides when it has young. It brings food in its bill for its chicks." Balaram. Mr. Vishwas now wants to cultivate the company of holy people. Master with a smile. A monk's kamandalu goes to the 4 principal holy places with him, but it still tastes bitter. Likewise, it is said that the Malaya breeze turns all trees into sandalwood, but there are a few exceptions, such as the cotton tree, the ashwata, and the hog plum. Some frequent the company of holy men in order to smoke hemp. Many monks smoke it, and these householders stay with them, prepare the hemp, and partake of the prasad. A great example. Yes, if the mind is clinging to its desires, it doesn't matter where the body goes. You can take it to church all you want. It's that story of those 2 young men. Remember, they were walking along the road and they decided they wanted to go to a house of ill repute. They wanted some prostitutes, and they're walking along, and one of the boys feels guilty. He's thinking to himself, "No, I shouldn't do that. I'm going to go to my Bhagavad Gita class." So he goes to his Bhagavad Gita class, and the other man's like, I'm going to the prostitutes. So he goes to the prostitutes, and the master says that the whole time the young man was at the Bhagavad Gita class, he was sitting there kicking himself around the block, thinking, "Oh God, I could have gone and had fun with my friend, and here I chose this boring class on the Bhagavad Gita. What a big mistake I've made." And he sits there, and the other guy who went to the house of ill repute is in there thinking, "Oh, my good friend made such a right decision to pursue God, and here I've chosen this, and I'm wasting my time here. Oh, have mercy on me. I can't believe that I was such a fool." And Ramakrishna says, "Who is the one that will be saved? Was it the one that went to the Gita class, or the one that went to the brothel?" And we know that it's the state of mind that's more important. It's the heart of the person that's important. And you know make our decisions with our heart, make them full-heartedly. It doesn't, the way through this is discernment. It's always discernment. Look very closely at what you're choosing and why you're choosing it, and place it in the light of awareness, which means with your chosen ideal in your mind. Sit together and look at your situations, look at your decisions, look at your longings, look at your heart, at your mind, together with your beloved. And in that light, the knots come untied. You'll understand what is the right thing to do. It's one thing to look at your faults and get discouraged by them and spin out deeper into your faults because you want to distract yourself from your faults through your faults. Even to say it like that, it becomes clear what a foolish thing it is to do. And yet it's what we all continually do. But if you turn on that awareness, you start lighting that lamp in the heart, and you discern these things and you see these things clearly, you will realize that the things you thought you desired the most are the things you desire the least. They are the things that are elusive and cause you to live in dissatisfaction and hunger. And when we come to realize that, we drop that fish like the flying kite, like the crow. Drop that fish, and all the birds that were pursuing it are no longer interested. It's because we hold on to our favorite desire and we clench onto it and won't let go of it that we suffer in all these numbers of different ways. Whether it's through not being able to have a good prayer, not having to find our bliss inside, not being able to have any inner peace, having always such a frenetic feeling about life, being afraid of death and growing old, staring in the mirror and looking at all this aging happening and feeling the fear of it, the sadness of it, because all that you've invested in with such love is passing away. But there's no need for that. That's all very funny from a spiritual position. There'll come a day for each one of us where we'll look back at the things that caused us suffering and we will laugh. We will think, was there ever a dumber man than me? Was there ever a bigger fool than the choices I made? And if you're lucky, you'll get to do that in the same life that they happened, in grace. And you'll be able to take Mother's name, and you'll be able to find your freedom. You'll be able to see clearly. Thursday, November 16th, 1882. Oh, it's 8:05. Nope. We'll stop there for the night. We'll leave the devotees and their hemp guru together. Anybody have a question or an insight or topic, a challenge, a correction, an idea? Yeah.
I'd like to comment on when you're going through the suffering, like physical pain and stuff like that. If you go through physical pain,
Yes.
Ma can really help with that if you pray. She really can make that much better. Even if the pain continues, your emotional response to it is different. So if you ever run into that, I just want to let you guys know out of experience it's legit. It does help. It does help. Yeah, that's all.
Yes, Bingo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swami.
I'm so grateful for that, Elizabeth, because I thought you were going to raise that issue with a question, around it. And that is a question I have no right to answer, because you're in the middle of it. And to hear that from you, what a gift to my heart that is. What a strengthening of faith that is. Thank you very much for that. And I thank the Lord that that's the case.
Me too.
Thank you.
Much different a year ago. This, yeah, dude. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, indeed.
I'll make a comment. I know that I worry about stuff sometimes too, but like when you said losing people and stuff like that, and I love my mom a lot, but I'm gonna make her suffer right now. She hates that. So I do that right now.
Oh goodness, where's Jesus when we need him?
Oh, Jesus can't even help us now, right now. Well,
Wonderful,
take our moments.
indeed.
I love every moment with y'all and with every single one of y'all and with her. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Yes,
I
John.
want to thank everyone, and I want to thank Elizabeth for that that share. That was really powerful.
It was.
It very was.
This is Sangha, everybody. This is Sangha.
What's that?
All right. Be well. Realize
This
Thank
you, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Indeed. Jai Ma.